Alright, we're going to go ahead and show you a little bit about how to use blended shading. We're just going to focus on this cube today. We'll do a different video for these later. But what we're going to do is we're going to shade this cube by using blending. Blending is where you shade with your pencil, but instead of just using only the pressure of the pencil, you also push into the shading with some kind of tool or implement. Okay, so what we're going to do first is let's grab a pencil. I like wooden pencils the best. I think they work better. We're going to go ahead and shade this side, and we're going to make this as dark as we can. Instead of pushing down straight on it, where you might possibly create a trench or like a ditch into the paper that you won't be able to get rid of. Like when you shade it later, you might leave a white line in there. I know it sounds crazy, but it happens. So take the side of your pencil and just try to shade it pretty darkly using the side of your pencil. Again, sometimes if you use the very tip of your pencil, it can create that trench. And even though you go in and try to shade it, there's a white line there you can't get rid of. It helps if you can try to keep the pencil strokes going in the same direction if you can. That would be really, really helpful. Some leads work better than others. Some pencils just aren't very dark. So if your pencil seems to not be very, very dark, maybe try a different lead pencil. I like wooden ones better, but sometimes mechanical pencils work great. So we're going to go in here and we're going to shade this. Again, trying to go in one direction. If you have a tendency to drag your hand across a page when you draw, you may want to keep a piece of paper towel or a scrap piece of paper here. I'm going to go ahead and put one more layer on top of here. I want this to be really, really dark. I might even do a third layer, but I want to keep the pencil strokes really close together. Okay? All right, so let's get these in here. Now, if you were here the day I handed out these worksheets, just use the worksheet I gave you. Only use one of them. Don't use all three. If you were absent the day I handed these out, you may have to draw a cube yourself. Just try to make it look nice and neat. Try to make it at least 3 inches height. That way you have some room. Now, if you want to go this direction, you can. Try to keep the lines in. Try to keep the pencil strokes inside the lines. It's less work you'll have to do if you have to erase. Now, right now I've just shaded this. I haven't blended it at all. I'll do that here in a minute. We're going to draw this cube as if a light source is hitting it from the front. So this is going to be the lightest side. This is going to be the darkest side. This is going to be the medium side. We're not going to have any kind of transition or gradation on this particular figure, but we probably will on these in future videos you'll see soon. So let's go ahead and now shade this one. If you need to pause this video and finish this and then go to this, you can. But on here, I'm going to use not nearly the pressure I used here. I'm going to go kind of light. I still want to use the side of my pencil, but I'm going to go lighter. But I still want my pencil strokes close together. I'm not going to try to overlap too much. I want to overlap some. But I'm probably going to use 3 or 4 coats on here as well. And I want it to be kind of a light medium to medium gray. Try to stay in the lines. It makes it easier. You don't want there to be inconsistency. Like, for instance, you see how dark that is there? We want to have a consistent layering. So we're going to use the side of the pencil and make that darker. I'm going to go ahead and layer it again. And it's for this side, I think it's just easier going left to right. But you could go this direction, but it's just so short. I think it's easier to go dark. If you're afraid you're going to go past your boundaries, you can take a piece of paper and just set it here so you don't, go past where you want to. Yes, erasers will take care of a lot of it, but sometimes you can't get things like you want to, as white as you want to after you mark it down. So I'm going to go really lightly like this. Several layers. I may go ahead and go one layer more. I want this to be a medium gray. And again, try not to let one area be darker than another. Try to have it consistent, pencil strokes really close together. I'll show you what happens when you don't keep your pencil strokes together here in a minute. So we've got a really dark layer, we've got a medium layer. This is going to be the hardest one to do. This is the light layer. And the reason why this is hard is that we want to keep the pencil strokes close enough together so that when we blend them, they'll kind of smudge together nice and neatly. But we don't want to go too dark. So what I'm going to encourage you to do is when you hold your pencil, instead of holding it down here like you're writing your name, take your pencil and intentionally hold it a weird way. Hold it far away, where that way when you're shading it, you're telling yourself, I'm drawing lightly. Like pretend like your fingers are broken maybe as you are drawing this. Go really, really light. You want to go back and forth and overlap the strokes, but you barely want to push down. Like you might even want to pretend like you're petting a butterfly. And yes, you should never pet a butterfly because, you know, all the little things will come off his wings and he won't be able to fly good anymore. But you get the idea. You want to push down very, very lightly. Now, this camera may not even be capturing how lightly I'm doing this because this camera doesn't work quite as good as the human eye. But you try to go back and forth lightly. Try to get those pencil strokes. Try not to have any white showing. The biggest thing is that you make each value totally 100% different from each side. If one side's exactly like the other, it's not going to look as three-dimensional. So I'll go over this maybe one more time. Be careful where I overlap my strokes. I don't want any dark spots in here. Try to stay inside the shade to avoid erasing, but if you have to erase, you can. Just sometimes some erasers aren't good quality and they can smear and smudge. Okay, so I'm going to erase a little bit here. I don't know if you can see the pencil strokes very well. Yeah, you can probably see them a little bit on the camera. But now it's time to blend. Now, if you were here in class, this is the best paper towel for blending. The school paper towel is terrible for using at home, but it's great for using it for blending. If you can't find school paper towel or anything like this, you can try to use regular paper towel at home. It's just not as good, I'll be honest with you. But I still think the school paper towel or even home paper towel would be better than using paper like this. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this paper towel and we're just going to tear off a strip of it like this. And we're going to take it and we're going to bend it and fold it in half. And you want to fold this in half multiple times. Okay, I fold that pretty good. And after I folded it like this, I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it one more time, but down this way. And you want this tight and compact like that. And what we're going to do is we're going to start blending. We're going to start with the lightest one first, and I'll tell you why in just a minute. So we're going to take this one, and you're going to take it and push down. And try not to let your hand drag into the picture, but you can go back and forth in the direction of the pencil marks you made, like this, and you're trying to push into it so that way the pencil strokes bleed together, so they kind of smear in a controlled way together. Be really careful when you get over to this edge. Now you can also go in circular motions, which I may do here in a minute, but right now I'm just going to kind of go back and forth. You may have to hold the paper still with your hands so it doesn't like bend or rip on you. I'm going to try to go this way, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my blending stump. I'm going to try to go in a circular motion, but in a controlled way. Mr. Norris, if I go outside the lines, is it going to hurt too much? No, I mean, you could erase it away, but you can never get the paper quite as white. Oops, see, I strayed over into the dark, and now I'm getting a little too dark there. So I'm going to take this eraser very lightly, not hard, but lightly erase some of that away, because I want this face to have the same value all the way across it, because usually when light hits a flat surface, it's consistently flat. I'm going to use the cleaner side of my blending stump instead of this darker side that got into here, and try to make that better, okay? And you can always go back and add a little more lead to this and make it look a little neat and clean. But you can already see that it's darker than what it was. If you rewind this video, you'll see that it's darker than before I blended it. This is blending. Now, you can blend with fingers. The only problem is that fingers put oils onto the drawing. And so two things that it can do. One, it can yellow the paper over time. But probably the biggest deal is that if you ever had to erase something, you'll be able to erase some of the pencil away, but you won't be able to erase as much of the pencil away because your oils and your fingers kind of set the stain, so to speak, and you won't be able to get it quite as light as you could have if you had just used a blending stump instead. Now, I've blended the front of this. Now I'm going to blend this part using the same blending stump, and I'm going to put a piece of paper under my hand so I don't drag my hand everywhere. And I'm going to blend probably left to right. Try to do that. I may have to go at an angle over here. I'm going to try not to blend into the white of the paper so that way it's easier to erase away. The softer the lead is, the easier it is to blend it. If a pencil is like a B or a 2B, it's easier to blend than maybe an HB or an H because it's got a softer lead. I'm going to erase away some of this edge. I think I've blended that pretty good. You want to try to make sure that you get rid of any lights on your edges. You want the whole side to have the same sense of value to it. Now the last one is going to be this one, and the reason why I want to start light and go dark, if I had started with this dark one and kept using the same blending stump, I would have made this way too dark. So by going lighter and then darker and then darkest, it's better. Now here, I'm going to blend it, I'm going to push down, go back and forth, and it's already getting darker. You can see it. It's because I'm smearing it and it's pushing the graphite into the paper, into the texture of the paper. Be really careful on your edges. If you need to put a piece of paper here, even a white piece of paper, you can do that to kind of protect your edges. You can. It's easier to do on an object that has a hard edge. You want this value to look different from this one. If you feel like an area is not dark enough, I'll clean that up a little bit, you can go in and take some more pencil lead and push down onto it and add a little more in and then blend it some more. Now I will tell you that sometimes you'll hit a limit on how dark you can get, like you'll darken it, blend it, you'll shade it, blend it, shade it, blend it, and what you'll find is the last time you blend it, or 4 or 5 of those, is that your blending stump is actually pulling the lead off of it and it's making it lighter, and you don't want that. So if you've blended several times, you might be able to just to shade it and either not blend it at all because the lines don't show, because you've done such a good job that you can put the graphite on there and the strokes don't show up because of the nice blended underlayers. Or you could blend just with a little pressure, just softly, and not pull as much of the graphite off of here. Now this looks pretty three-dimensional. I'm going to show you 2 more things before we quit. One is that this blending stump can also be a great drawing tool. Like sometimes if you're shading something, you can take a blending stump you've been using somewhere else in a darker area, and sometimes you can use it, if you're careful, and create small like values like so to make something darker. The only thing is, I thought about doing that for this, but I was afraid I'd run out of lead and then it wouldn't have an even consistency. That's why I wanted to use pencil first. The last thing I want to show you is that can you shade something where the lines are really, really far apart? Well, you can, but here's the problem with that. By the way, on this blending stump, you can always take this blending stump and flip it over and have a fresh, clean side if you want. I know you got plenty of paper towels, so you can always make more, but anyway, this will give you a clean one to start with. But you could take this, and yes, it'll blend. The only problem is that when you blend, yeah, look, your pencil strokes still show up. Yeah, you got it gray, but the pencil strokes show up. By keeping them really close together, they blend together, they smash together, and they hide it, and you get a pretty smooth, consistent cube. So anyway, here's how you do the cube. I wish you the best. Take care, and happy drawing.